Hey.
怪獣
Classic.
珍獣
It's only 38 episodes in, but it feels like a classic.
あなたがハンターになったら渡してくれって。
I forgot to mention, I love that it's a bit of a different outfit for Gone. Simple enough. Just chilling at home outfit, right?
封印されていた箱の中には謎のアイテムが3つ。その一つ、古いカセットテープから流れてきたのは、ゴンが初めて聞く父親の声だった。
やっぱりお前もハンターになっちまったか。
これが親父の
But
声。
it's got 2 tapes.
お前、俺に会いたいか。
Am I?
会う気があるならこのまま聞いてくれ。もしその気がないなら停止ボタンを押せばいい。
Oh, okay, it's this. I was hearing this in the background. Huh.
イエスってことか。覚悟はあるか。ハンターってやつは手前勝手なもんだ。
Jing's no exception, of
自分が欲
course.
しいもののために他のものを捨てていく。できれば会いたいって程度の気持ちなら
Give it up.
ここでテープを切っといた方がいい。
Go all in.
1分やろう。
どうする？
Yeah. 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 Oh, he's dialed in. He's ready. Oh, yes. I love the sound design. You know, you can hear the sea.
俺はお前に会いたくない。
Blunt.
どの面下げて会えばいいのかわからねえしな。何しろ俺は俺のために親であることを思い出した人間だ。
Okay. Yeah, it is that angle.
ろくなもんじゃねえ。
Whoa,
俺がこれを
whoa.
吹き込んでからお前が聞くことになる日まで
Oh my god, yes.
10年以上の時を経ているだろう。だがその間絶対に変わらないものがある。
Whoa.
俺が俺であることだ。おう
They mentioned something about this, right? Controlling creatures as well
だから
through Nen.
お前がこのテープを聞いている今もどこかでバカをやっている。
Same eyes as
それで
gone.
も会いたきゃ探してくれ。だがさっきも言ったが、俺はお前とは会いたくねえ。近づく
Ooh.
のが分かったらとんずらかますぜ。捕まえてみろよ。
Ah, okay.
お前もハンターなんだろ。
It's bittersweet, isn't it? Bittersweet, but our boy gone. Ooh, interesting.
お前の親父も一筋縄じゃいきそうもねえな。
ジンはまだそこにいる。
あ、一つ言い忘れたぜ。
Ah, the score,
お前
man.
の母親についてだ。
This should be interesting. His reaction,
聞きたければこのまま聞いてくれ。
given the things that happened in the last episode.
いいのか？
それに言ったろ。俺の母親はミトさん。
Yes, my
そ
boy.
っか。
腹減らない？何か持ってくるよ。
Whoa.
おいゴン、テープが勝手に動き始めたぞ。
Oh shit. Self-destruction?
鉄拳にオーラが。違う。念を込めたんだよ。
Oof.
10年以上前に停止ボタンを押したら巻き戻すように。なんで？今度は録音ボタンが入った。そうか、
Ah.
消す気だ。自分の声を。やっぱダビング用のテープもやられてる。
Oof, that's gone.
なんでここまでする必要があったのかな。
Info about his mom.
手がかりを残したくなかったってことだろうな。音声からだけでも相当のデー
Good
タが得
point.
られる
Good
んだ。
point.
そ
Yeah.
うなの？
Yeah.
録音した人間の身長や体重、性別、年齢、顔の作り
Ooh.、
持病もわかるし、心理状態だって読み取れる。
Yeah, I suppose people can analyze
背景
that
の
all,
雑
all
音
of
か
that,
ら
right?
録音した場所
Yeah,
を
I
特
thought I
定
was
でき
hearing
ることもあ
background
るしな。
noise, but it was this
でも
area.
警戒したのはもっと別のことだぜ。念能力だよ。機械よりはるかに優秀な解析ができる念能力の持ち主がいても、
Mm.
おかしくないだろ。
Ooh.
例えば声を聞いただけで相手のすべてがわかる能力とか。お前の親父手強いな。うん。
Challenge
そ
accepted,
れに
eh?
してもテープがダメになっちまったから手がかりは2つになっちまったな。問題はこのロムカードだな。
これ専用のハードがあるのかな。
知らねえの？これジョイステ専用のロムカードだぜ。
ジョイステ？
ジョイステーションってゲー
Joy
ム
Station.
3世代前の。お前
Ah.
なんも知らねえの。
Okay, around the time he used to be a
この
kid.
島、いまだにカセットレコーダー使ってるくらいだから、きっとあるぜ。おもちゃやってあるか？
うん、あるけ
Oh,
ど。
there is.
よし、待ってろ。
Kind of like the original PlayStation. It'll be interesting if Mito-san has any interest in that.
これがジョイステーション。
Yeah.
懐かしいな。昔
Ah,
よくやったぜ。隠れた名作もいっぱいあるし。
ふーん。
so
ロ
relatable.
ムカードも名作なのかな。タイトルとか何も書いてないけど。
No, my guy.
お前本当にゲームやったことないんだな。貴重なやつ。ここを空にしたままでロムカードを差し込みパワーを入れると何のゲームのデータか一目でわかるんだ。グリードアイランド。
Greed Island.
グリードアイランド。
Could be a clue.
それにしてもすごいデータ。
Look it up, boys. Look it up.
無駄だと思うけど一応データをコピーしとくぜ。
何すんの？
ネットだよ。
Yes.
ゲーム名がわかったんだ。売ってる店を検索する。
Ooh.
一件もないのかよ。
Oh, is it like a really rare game? Out of print?
中古市場にも出回ってるな。
No eBay
いずれでも
searches?
中古くらいはあるはずなのに。
That's true, though, yeah?
この
On...
ゲーム自体市場に出回ってない可能性もある
Ooh,
な。
banned?
どういうこと？
つまり個人が作ったゲームで
I love this.
もともと売り物じゃないか何かの事情で発売禁止になってるゲームってことさ。
All of us gamers can relate to this so much.
これはちゃんと正規のルートで販売されたゲームだ。
グリードアイランド。ハンター専用ハ
Mm.
ンティングゲーム。
しかもなんだ
Whoa.
この値段。5億8000万。58億だ。
しかし
Interesting.
なんちゅうデタラメな値段なんだ。
販売個数は100個だって。これって多くないよね。
Okay, it's more than just a game then.
少ねえよ。けど分かった。値段はとんでもねえけどハンターなら買える値段だし、こりゃ完全な売り切れだ。
It's quite a niche target market. It's more than just a game, surely. Who
やっ
else?
ぱ
Who
りダメ
else?
だった。個人の取引だと売り手のいいね次第だから市場価格より高い金を要求されるなんてザラだもん。
Mm.
じゃあもっと高いってこと？
かもな。
But what about your hunter license? Gone. Come on. Right? He could use it
ま、
to...
ダメ元で告知だけしとこうよ。ゲームソフト。グリードアイランド求む。値段。要相談。
俺たちじゃ判断つかねえし。
Yeah, because you have no
じゃあ
idea.
どうすればいいの？
You need someone
もっ
who's
とネットのディープなとこに入り込めば情報も豊富になるけど
who's actually played it or heard of
俺
it,
もあんま
has
詳しく
information.
ねえしな。
ゲームやネットに詳しい人って誰かいないの？
Exactly.
あ、いた。両方詳しいやつ。
Who?
つうか、あいつだったらグリードアイランド持って
That
る
face he
かもな。
made though.
でもやだな。
あー
あいつに頼むの。あ、ゴト
Goto.
俺切るわ。
後藤さん？
That's the one, but he's not
ああ
a gamer
元気
though,
にやっ
is
てる
he?
よ。それよりさ、豚くん呼び出して。
豚くん。
No!
ああ、キラーが俺に。
Whoa.
やだよ
Milky.
出かけてるって言っとけよ。
嘘つけよ。
It's quite the room
あい
you've
つ
got
外
there.
出するわけねえじゃん。10秒以内に電話に出ねえと、てめえのフィギュア全部ぶっ壊すって伝えてよ。
You never say that to a collector.
わかったよ。つなげろ。おい、キラー。言っとくけど、俺のコレクション指一本でもくれたら殺すぞ。
Look at the cell phone.
冗談だよ兄貴。怒んないでよ怖いな。
それで、なんなんだ。忙しいのにさ。
I love Milky. That life size doll though.
ああ、知ってる。お前の口からそんなレアゲームの名前が出ると。
Hey, this is something you can connect over.
持ってないのか？
ああ、持ってない。俺も後から方々手を打って探
Probably
したん
sold
だ
out
けど
instantly, right?
持ち主さえ特定できない。いろんな意味で伝説のゲームだよ。
All kinds of reasons.
で何？
Aw.
お前もしかして探してんのか？
まあね。
無理無理、やめとけよ。俺でさえ諦めたんだから。
へえ。兄貴が手も足も出ないで降参してんのか。
He's egging him on so he looks for it.
昔の話だよ。ただ労力と金額を考えると、そこまでして欲しいゲームでもないしなってことだよ。
その心当たりってのを教え
He's
て
got
よ。
another doll on the
ただ
monitor
じゃ
there.
やだね。
グリードアイランドのメモリーカードと交換ってのはどう？
どういうことだ？
ちょっとしたコネでさ、ロムカードだ
Look at those eyes.
兄貴ならこのデータを解析して ソフト自体再生することもできるんじゃないの？その代わり2つの有力情報を得たぜ。まず1つ、ハンターだけがアクセスできるハンター専用サイトがある。そこならグリードアイランドの手がかりもあるだろうって。
ハンターライセンスを使うんだね。
Hell yeah.
バカ、自宅のパソコンを使ったら住所がバレバレになるだろ。
ハンターライセンス狙いの小悪党がゾロゾロ島に集まっちまうぞ。
Yeah. Let's protect the island.
もう一つがヨークシンシティでのオークション。
Yes, that's right. That's
ヨー
right.
クシンシティって言ったら
そう、クラピカ・レオリオと再会を約束した場所。
A lot of rare items show up
9
there,
月
right?
に世界最大のオークションが行われる。
Ooh, this is exciting. It's set up for perhaps another.
ある人物がそのゲームを何十本も今年のそのオークションに流すって情報があるらしい。
いずれにせよ俺たちはヨークシンシテ
Yeah.
ィに行く運命だ。
Yorknew City. Folks, I'm having so much fun. This is like, I don't know, just a really fun episode. Aw. Like I said, man, you've got to savor these types of episodes. Okay, Miluki, come on.
富豪のバッテラってやつがゲームソフトに170億、クリアデータ入りのロムカードに500億の懸賞金をかけてるのか。
God damn.
まさに伝説だな。
Truly legendary, yeah. Nice.
俺が伝説に終止符を打ってやる。
Hey, like I said, I find him charming, man. Miluki, he's got his own charm.
何かあったの？
またしばらく帰ってこられないんでしょ？
Yeah, most likely.
次いつ食べられるか分からないわよ。
Mm.
しっか
Oh,
り食べておきなさい。
it reminds me of my mom. Anytime I'm over. And my youngest brother as well. She makes everything. Everything he loves. Oh,
それじゃ
so wholesome. I was just about to say, I hope there's one more episode. But no. You've got to keep it moving, right? Oh.
俺必ずジンを見つけるから。ジンに会ったらまた島に戻ってくるからね。それまで元気でね。
Ooh, right in the feels.
ジンは自分に会いたければ探してみろと言い
Great
謎を
episode.
残した
Great episode.
ゴンはその謎を解き父親に会うため再び故郷を離れキルアと共にヨークシンシティへ向かったのだった。
Okay, so indeed it is a wrap on this mini arc. You know, stopping by at home, seeing Mito-san, and then of course, throughout the span of this episode, essentially setting up another arc, perhaps, right? Not perhaps, it is. It essentially is kind of planting the beginning stages of it, right? But up next is something that has been set up for quite some time, that has been building up for quite some time at this point. Yorknew. I mean, at this point, it's simply not possible for me to be any more excited than I am, for this arc, for Yorknew. Of course, just the simple things. First of all, just the simple things like getting to see Kurapika and Leorio again, getting to see all four of them together again in that group dynamic, right? And then, of course, they've spent quite a bit of time separated at this point, though of course Gon and Killua stuck together, but it gives us this chance now to really catch up, right? Both us, the audience, and Gon and Killua together. Yes, they've kind of checked in with Kurapika, right? Momentarily at least, but not much on Leorio, other than the fact that he's really busy studying at the moment. But yeah, I'm just incredibly excited to see the crew back together. And then of course, beyond that, just Yorknew itself and everything it encompasses at this point, right? Just really quite recently, in this episode, there is yet another reason for them to be there, right? I think Gon said something along the lines of, it's essentially destiny, that they are destined to be in Yorknew. If it wasn't for that reason, it is for yet another reason. I mean, at this point, it does feel like an understatement to say this again, but yeah, all roads lead to Yorknew. I mean, at this point, I legitimately feel this buzz right? This sense of tension that is building, this excitement, because, everything's going to converge there at this point. You've got the Phantom Troop angle, right? The spiders. You've got the Hisoka angle, especially given the big revelation about Hisoka in the Heaven's Arena arc, right? Hisoka and the Phantom Troop specifically, right? His role in all of that. And then, of course, you've got the Kurapika angle, right? I do expect Kurapika to take center stage in this one, in this arc. Though, of course, that being said, again, in this episode, you see that Gon and Killua have their own, they have their own target. They have their own goal. So it's not going to be as simple as, okay, let's tag along and, Kurapika is going to be doing his thing. No. Other than maybe Leorio, who I might get to learn about much more, of course, his, just an update. I need much more on Leorio since I said goodbye to him. But yeah, at this point, Gon and Killua also have a reason to be there. Quite a significant reason. I mean, at this point, given the build-up, it promises to be an incredible arc. It truly does. My God, I'm excited, man. I'm really quite excited. But also, here's another angle to them reuniting. I'm really quite excited, or not excited, interested in potentially getting to hear from Kurapika and Leorio, right? Their opinions, their stance on Ging, if that comes up. It might come up, as they are going to catch up and, mention Heaven's Arena, and then, they go back home. And of course, now it's all about this Greed Island. And, listen, before I go any further, at this point, I firmly believe that it's not as simple as just a game. I mean, just look at the barriers of entry at this point, right? It feels nearly impossible. And again, it is geared towards hunters. It's exclusively meant to be for hunters. But also, that being said, just because it is geared towards hunters doesn't mean that, people from the general public aren't interested in it, right? You've got Miluki. Speaking of these billionaires, he actually name dropped one of them, right? And that he's offering something just insane, right? An egregious amount for just a saved copy. But okay, I say just a saved copy, but it's a completed copy specifically. The completed copy is worth that amount apparently. So, then of course that begs the question, why exactly is the completed copy worth that much? But then again, I do have to go back to my point and reiterate that I do not think this is just a normal game, right? Hell, it could be misdirection. There is a bit of that in this, I think. There's a good chance there could be a bit of that in this, but, hell, they're showing Ging on an actual island, right? And it's not just a normal looking island either, I mean, my God, I'll get into Ging. I'll get into that topic as he is essentially a focal point of this, right? The whole Gon and Ging aspect of this. And of course, the possibility of him actually literally being on something called Greed Island is a possibility. It is. But again, I have to be careful. There could be a bit of misdirection at play, right? So essentially, my theory at this point, yeah, I'd say it is that it might actually be a place rather than just a game you pop into the Joy Station that is essentially kind of doubling as the original PlayStation, right? And just kind of sitting on the couch and playing it. I think there's so much more to it. I mean, just the title itself, it just kind of sounds like a destination, doesn't it? Greed Island. But also just because I don't think it's just a normal game that happens to be really quite rare for, again, specific reasons. Apparently it's legendary for many reasons, according to Miluki. And listen, I've got to say, I love that segment. I did. Him and Killua, the back and forth, right? It's not as confrontational as the last time, is it? I mean, yes, of course, there's the sibling banter that these two have. And again, I find it charming. It actually is kind of endearing to see them have that back and forth. Killua teasing Miluki about his hobbies, right? Him kind of being this, introvert almost, that functions right out of the family estate, the family home. So yeah, of course, they've established that this isn't a normal family, right? Again, in comparison to outside standards, but family is family. And the Zoldycks have their own methods. They have their own, I don't know, they have their own way of showing love, right? And I think ultimately Miluki does care for Killua. And you see that Killua actually does respect Miluki and his talents, right? He understands that his brother, his older brother, does bring a lot to the table, right? Yes, he was reluctant at first to call him up, right? But he knew, you could just tell he knew, okay, yeah, this is the best bet. He knew that, Miluki is the right man for this job, for this call. And ultimately, yeah, he points him in the right direction, right? Yes, he has to receive the copied memory card, and then he'll let him know about the Hunter exclusive site that you could go to, right? And of course, it being exclusive means that it's really going to cut out all the clutter, all the fakes, right? But again, you have to be careful, right? Just because it's exclusive to hunters doesn't mean it's going to be honest. There's a lot of interesting people out there. Hunters specifically are really quite interesting. Hunters specifically are really quite selfish, as Ging reiterates once again, or a few times actually throughout this episode. Hell, you actually even kind of get to see Gon's selfish side, at least in my opinion. Maybe this is something that might be a little bit subjective, but again, I'll get to that. And then of course Miluki gives him the second tip, or a second piece of information, that there's a rumor going around there could be dozens of copies of Greed Island showing up at the auction. And again, that checks out. That makes a lot of sense, right? So this auction promises to be just quite mental. And Gon actually even felt that maybe Ging might be the one who actually kind of floods the market or floods the auction with these copies, these dozen or so copies of Greed Island. So, here's another question that I have. I mean, there's so many questions, of course. The question being, who the hell made this game? Right? I mean, at this point, I think a thing that you can kind of infer is that at the least, Ging has a hand in it in some capacity. And then, in the last episode, I speculated that Ging, again, given his reputation, right, against the Totes, really, really gave us quite a bit of fascinating insight into Ging and how respected he is. Because regardless of his failures as a father, and yes, these are failures as a father indeed, and I'll get into that. But beyond that aspect of it, in the hunter field, he is considered this legendary maverick. The type of hunter that other people look up to. People like Satotes, who is really quite respectable, right? Satotes, of course, if he's saying something, I'm buying it, right? Or I'm at least putting a lot of credibility to his opinion, or in his opinion, rather. So it really is quite fascinating to kind of know about the highs of Ging and also the lows of Ging, right? Listen, from one perspective, people might call him a loser, a deadbeat, right? And hell, yeah, it's not something I could argue against, right? But I'll give you my take on Ging in a bit, because I believe that requires its own section. I don't want to do it just in passing, because right now I'm kind of focused a bit more on the Greed Island aspect of it. But of course, Greed Island and Ging might be going hand in hand, essentially. But, I kind of speculated that, the Nen symbols, or the symbols that are kind of associated with, the stuff that's infused with Nen, be it the inside of the ring, be it the box that kind of falls apart once you kind of use Nen on it, right? And I saw all of this in the last episode. I felt that maybe Ging could have a hand in developing this, right? This infusion of Nen and these symbols and all of that. But let's look at the contents of the Nen box, right? The cassette has served its purpose, and also at this point, the memory card has served its purpose, right? Essentially, this whole idea of Greed Island came out of it, right? After seeing those multiple saves. I mean, there's quite a few of them on there, actually. And again, that might be by design, the fact that there's so many of them, right? But again, going back to my earlier point, apparently a completed save file is worth even more than the game itself, right? But that leaves a ring, doesn't it? And of course, it's going to play a part. I mean, it's the last one remaining, so that might play one of the biggest parts, right? It might be perhaps the most crucial part of it, right? Now, I saw the ring, and to me, it kind of felt like, this is a ring for, I don't know, a select group of people, right? Exclusive, really quite exclusive. So there's a possibility that this ring could be I don't know, a bit of a memento, or more so a signifier that you belong to an exclusive group of people. At one point, I actually even had this mental image of, kind of going downstairs in a basement or something, something that's really kind of tough to find, right? But once you find it, maybe there's a door and you kind of have to flash the ring, maybe to gain entry, something along those lines. I'm not saying that that's the case, that really specific situation, but that's the feeling it kind of, evokes. Hell, if Greed Island actually ends up being a place, it's not out of the realm of possibility that this could be something crucial in gaining entry, right? It could be. So, there's a lot of possibilities here, but ultimately I do think that it's not just as simple as it being a game that you just kind of sit back and play. Not in the traditional sense, at least. Because then, of course, all of this juicy intrigue just kind of gets wasted, doesn't it? But yeah, you see that there is a role reversal in this episode, right? Killua is now kind of taking the lead because, now it's all about tech, modern tech and gaming and all of that stuff, right? The internet and being safe on the internet. So after Gon taking the lead in the last episode, because of course, it's Gon bringing him to his home. So, he's showing him around, he's showing him all the places, all that good stuff. But now, of course, it was Killua's turn to take control again. And the thing is, if Killua wasn't here, Gon, he would have been kind of lost. So, it truly just kind of feels like it's all meant to be. These two are meant to be together. Like I mentioned, best friends, soulmates at that. And moments like these ones always make me think of the first time they ran into each other. And I remember at that point, there's this distinct feeling I had, right? That this is probably the beginning of an incredible friendship, right? Perhaps an iconic one, a legendary one. And, so far, so good. It feels like it, doesn't it? It feels really, truly special. Hell, I'm here. In 2 episodes at this point, I'm saying things like, these two are soulmates. It truly feels like that. And then, of course, getting to see this side of Killua and Miluki as well. It is just so endearing, isn't it? It is. Yes, on one end, he's part of the Zoldyck assassin clan, this legendary, shadowy, iconic family of assassins. But he's a kid. And the fascinating thing is, earlier on, I didn't actually think Killua is going to be this relatable. On one side, he's this really formidable and scary individual, right? Again, that's just in his nature, being from that family of assassins. But on the flip side, you have this Killua, the normal kid, a kid who did have these normal things growing up. And there you have someone that is really quite relatable. For a lot of us, at least, not all of us. Though, of course, in comparison to Gon, it's kind of night and day. Gon's more of a outdoors type little dude. Gon wasn't gaming or on the internet. But that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's really quite the contrast from his actual father, Ging, because Ging is clearly into all of this, right? Tech. But yeah, it's just such a fun thing, isn't it? To see Killua explain all of these things to Gon. And of course, it's relatable as well. Because a lot of us are gamers. But the thing is, even as I'm speaking of it, I'm realizing that this is just such a departure, isn't it? Because I just wasn't expecting it to go into this direction. It almost kind of feels like it's out of left field that so much is being put into this game aspect of it. Greed Island, this really expensive and elusive game at that. Hell, elusive is kind of putting it lightly. It's not even that it's expensive. It's the fact that even if it is expensive, and even if you have the money, it's not as simple as just, paying for it. You need to actually locate the buyers who are open to selling it. And that in itself is quite the elusive prospect, isn't it? So that right there tells us quite a bit, doesn't it? That not too many people are open to selling it, even if they have it. But yeah, let's shift the focus now to Gon's old man, Ging, right? Catch me if you can, he says. Now, I actually get to look at him, don't I? As it transitions to that island that seems to have its own atmosphere, or it appears to have some kind of force field around it, right? And there's kind of like a spiral up top, right? Kind of like again, its own atmosphere, kind of like a hurricane, mini hurricane over just that island. But again, they've alluded to this, that, there's exotic places out there, special places out there that, again, special people like hunters are drawn to. And, in that sense, it's interesting that the original intro comes back into it. Now, of course, at a basic level, it just kind of comes in by default because, I don't need the rules of Nen at this point. Because they're using that a lot throughout the Heaven's Arena arc, but now it kind of goes back to the original. But, in the context of this episode and, having Ging being such a focal point of it, that intro actually kind of serves as a reminder, doesn't it? About the nature of hunters and the wonders of the world and the things that they are drawn to, and the mystique and allure of the things that are out there, right? That might draw them away from things like family, right? Things that could make them give up on certain things. And, there could be a possibility of perhaps a tiny bit of a hint in terms of the spiral shape, right? Because in the memory card, Greed Island, the game, the icon that is being used for it is the spiral, isn't it? But again, it could easily just be a misdirect as well. It could just be an exotic island that he happens to be at. Now, I get it. I get a look at Ging, don't I? And, he looks content. He does. It looked like he's at peace. He tells Gon that, he's probably being reckless out there. Hell, the fact that he's on this creature that is then on top of another creature that appears to be similar to a dragon, that right there, again, tells you quite a bit, doesn't it, about Ging and, the power scaling and the things he's capable of, that he is just on a completely different plane, on a different planet at this point. I don't mean that literally, I just mean in the figurative sense. But yeah, there's quite a bit there. And, there's actually a really cool shot, a really cool crossfade transition. It's kind of, the dragon taking off and you see the wings of the dragon, but, you see the crossfade of Ging. So at one point, for a split moment at least, it looks like Jing's got wings, right? Almost as if he's out there free, right? Doing his thing. Again, content. So to me, that shot kind of represented Ging deciding to, spread those wings rather than put them away, right? To tuck them away once he had gone. And then, of course, speaking of the creatures that he's on, Bo, and then, Bo's on top of this, again, dragon-like figure, they've mentioned that you can use Nen on creatures. That is a possibility. But, the thing is, it might just be as simple as Ging being so experienced, right? That there might not be any Nen at all. It might just be him controlling these creatures. It might be as simple as these creatures having, an attachment to Ging. But as Ging stated himself, the one thing that hasn't changed is that I'm still me. He is unapologetically true to himself, right? And you see that he stands behind that choice, right? See, the thing is, it's really clear that this man, Ging, has decided that, that chapter has ended, right? That he thinks it's done and dusted. There's no going back. He understands. It truly feels like that he has closed that chapter of his life for good, forever, because there is this acceptance there, right? He chalks it up as one of his failures in life, right? There's no sugarcoating. There's no, emotional manipulation. He even tells him straight up, I don't want to see you. He tells him, right? He's really quite forthcoming about it as well, right? But again, there's a flip side of it as well. Hunters are selfish by nature. So you do have to look at it from that perspective as well. Because, Ging might be looking at the situation and thinking, is there any benefit of actually meeting my son after all this time? After I've failed him? After I failed my duties as a father? As a parent? Is anything good going to come out of this? Or I could be using that time to kind of pursue something incredible, right? Or continue pursuing something incredible that's already at play, perhaps, right? This whole thing about hunters being selfish, it really has me thinking about some of our main characters. I'm thinking about Kurapika. I'm thinking about Leorio and Gon and Killua. If they are in certain situations, I'm sure there might be a time that each one of them might find themselves in a situation that might actually require them to be selfish. Maybe not require them to be selfish, but put them in really quite the conundrum. Listen, who's to say that Gon might not be in a situation down the line, where he actually might find himself quite close to Ging. But in this what if scenario, it could possibly mean that he has to overlook something with his friends. Maybe he has to overlook something about Killua. A situation that might have his friends in quite a tricky situation, maybe, right? And, at that point, he might have to make a choice. Continue pursuing his father at that moment because he might be kind of close And if he doesn't pursue it at this point, he might be gone again, or stick to his friends, help his friends. Again, it's a hypothetical. It's a what if situation, right? You can apply it to any of them. Look at Kurapika, right? Kurapika, they firmly established that he has a goal in mind. Could he find himself in a situation that requires him to make a choice? And I mean a proper choice. A choice that does not have consequences is not really much of a choice at all, right? There has to be distinct consequences to making a choice. So, in this specific case, say, something like him pursuing his vengeance, right? Him and the spiders, him and, God damn it, the Phantom Troop, or being in a position to help his friends instead. Sooner or later, our boys are going to be faced with some really difficult situations. I mean, I certainly hope that they are going to find themselves in situations that require quite a difficult choice. And they've already kind of alluded to Killua and, making a choice. Silva, his father, actually even brought up a potential scenario. Never betray your friends. And then, of course, you've got Leorio as well, right? He could find himself in a tricky situation as well at some point. But, the thing is, Leorio is, he's a ride or die, isn't he? I love those segments of him really backing Gon and really backing Killua against Illumi in the final stage of the exam. Remember, even though he didn't have much of a relationship with Killua, but given how Leorio reacted to Illumi's treatment of Killua, I would love to hear about his stance on Ging, right? And Jing's treatment of Gon, right? Oof, he's going to get heated if he hears about that story, right? And he's going to hear about it sooner or later from Ging and Killua. Sorry, not Ging, from Gon and Killua, right? Because they are going to come together soon enough, right? In Yorknew, and they'll catch up. Right? So, I mean, Leorio, I'm sure, is not going to like this Ging character at all, right? Now, let's have a look at Ging. Is he simply just a bad person, right? Is it just as simple as him being this irresponsible asshole who couldn't care less about his responsibilities as a father, as a parent, right? Is it just as simple as that? Or is he just a bad father? Right? But the thing is, does being a bad father inherently make you a bad person? Right? This is a topic of contention, of course. Right? It is going to be subjective. It is. It simply is. Listen, I'll give you my take on it. Listen, at this point, I'm not sure if I can just outright call him a bad person. But the one thing that is clear is that he is a bad father. He is a bad parent. He's a terrible father. And I really do feel that it humanizes him quite a bit that he's so accepting of this, that ultimately it might just be as simple as this man, this young man at that age, of course, around the time he had gone, simply just not being equipped to be a father at that point, simply not being ready to close a door in his life forever. But yet, of course, closing that door is one thing. Being a father certainly opens a lot of other incredible doors, a totally new perspective on life, a new journey in life. But not everyone is ready for that. Not everyone is equipped for that at any given moment. But, as I'm saying that, you do kind of have to begin thinking about the possibility of an unplanned pregnancy, right? Because it certainly doesn't look like he wanted a child at that point. Right. But then, of course, there's, there's the whole other side of this. Gon's biological mother, who he decided to pass on in terms of gaining a bit more insight, getting any type of information. Jing's out there as a hunter, living this really exciting lifestyle that he's really, truly all about, isn't he? He loves it. He truly loves it. You get that feeling already. I mean, not just from this episode, even from some of the other segments. Again, Satote's mentioning him and giving us that really significant insight about Jing. And of course, as you're out there in these really exciting and exotic places and experiencing all kinds of things in life, you run into other really exciting people. One of them essentially being Gon's biological mother. And at this point, it looks like the anime itself is closing that chapter as well, for now at least, right? By Gon rejecting the idea of getting any more information, it kind of gives us our answer as well, doesn't it? That ultimately might not really be that significant. Maybe. But again, it's a long anime. I'm still really quite early days in it. Maybe I'll get some insight down the line. But earlier in the discussion, I mentioned that I do kind of get to see a bit of Gon's selfish side. That I do kind of get to see some of the same mannerisms as Ging, right? He only took the information that he wanted, and that was about Ging. And he discarded anything else. He did not want to hear anything about his biological mother, right? It could have been anything. It legitimately could have been anything. I have no clue, right? It could have been something really quite sad. Maybe she's not in his life because she's not able to be in his life. Could be something along those lines. Or it could be something as simple as she was in the same position as Ging, maybe, right? That she was not in a position to be a mother. She was not at that point or at that stage in her life. I don't even know if she's alive anymore because Mito-san has not mentioned anything about the biological mom trying to get in contact at all, right? So, yeah, it's a lot of, what if situations now in our minds as audience members. So even though I was really quite happy that Gon, immediately stopped it, and I was happy because, again, it reiterates that stance that Mito-san is my true mom. She is a mother. She has been a mother to me, and that's good enough, right? That's good enough for me. It's certainly applicable to real life as well, isn't it? You cannot impose your stance on children that are adopted, right? You cannot impose they go find out about their parents. Some of them don't want to meet their biological parents, right? They've moved on. And, in this case, you see that to Gon, Mito-san is his mother and is going to be his mother forever because she filled that role, right? And I love that it really, really, truly gives Mito-san the credit that she deserves. The story itself has given her so much credit, and I love that. But also in terms of his pursuit of Ging, it's not from the stance of I'm looking for my biological father, right? That I want to reconnect. That I want this father-son relationship. I mean, it's been really quite clear that not Ging, god damn it, I'm mixing the two up now. Gon is not looking for any of that, right? His pursuit of Ging is really quite simple, isn't it? It has been since day one, since episode 1. And like I said a little bit earlier, Ging being so accepting of this really, really humanizes him, right? You see that he is ashamed. You see that he does chalk it up as one of his failures, one of the failures of his life. He doesn't selfishly want to be a part of his life down the line after, kind of skipping out for a good chunk of it, right? You see that a lot in stories and in real life as well, because a lot of stories are inspired by real life, right? Parents coming back into people's lives. So, at this point, Ging actually feels like one of the most authentic human characters of this story. It truly feels like that he's not looking for redemption at all, even down the line. And it really is quite the damning appraisal of himself, isn't it? He actually does consider himself a bad person. He stated it. He believes it. But again, that might not be just down to the fact that he wasn't a father to Gon. It could be, it also could be because, again, he believes he's quite selfish, so maybe from that perspective, you can kind of see his, take on hunters. But yeah, he lays it all out for Gon, right? He's really quite blunt, forthcoming. I don't want to see you. But after all of this, once it's been made really quite clear, if you still want to pursue me, then catch me if you can as a hunter, right? So yeah, ultimately he knows that if his son Gon is still all in after hearing all of this, he knows that the path that he's going to be on is going to be quite the journey. He is going to have a lot of experiences. So again, maybe I'm giving him a bit too much credit here. There is perhaps his own unique approach to this, right? Kind of, helping his son grow. But yeah, is it a case of Ging, the drama queen, or the idea of coming face to face with his son is just that inconceivable, right? Facing his failure as a father, is it just that inconceivable? That, he's essentially closed that chapter of his life and he's moved on from it altogether, right? Again, he's not seeking redemption. He's really quite accepting of his failures. And again, he considers himself a bad person. So just to reiterate, I do believe he is a terrible father. Terrible father. Right? He absolutely failed his duties as a parent. He did. But, I don't know if I can call him a bad person just yet. Right? Like I said, through characters like Satotes, they've established that he's done some incredible things, right? For society. I'm sure, there's a lot of opinions about Ging, and I'm sure, for some, it's just as simple as, nah, fuck him. He's a dickhead. He's an asshole for walking out on Gone and never coming back into his life, never making an attempt to, come back into his life. Fuck him. Right? I can see that perspective. I understand that perspective as well. But I do find myself wanting to learn more about him. He is a fascinating character. Let's not beat around the bush. He is. Or at least there's certainly the makings of a really fascinating character there. But to end it off, let me kind of, go back to Miluki. I think his role in the Zoldyck family, it shouldn't be overlooked. Right? Unless I'm reading too much into this. To me, it feels like he plays a crucial part in keeping the Zoldyck clan, the assassin clan, up to date with the newest tech. Surveillance and, modern tech and hacking and, gathering intel. It feels like that is his thing. So yes, even though he is kind of presented as a bit of a slob from one perspective, he does excel in some things, right? He does have something he excels in, rather. And something that is clearly quite useful to his family, to the Zoldyck clan, as assassins, essentially. At least that's my read on the situation. And, one of the reasons I believe that is because of Killua's reaction to Miluki and just the respect that he does have for the talents that Miluki does have. Even if for the most part they don't really get along, even Miluki understands that, Killua is important to the family. There was that really great scene, right? It was him and Zeno, Grandpa, in the halls or in the tunnels at that one point, right? It's one of the standout moments of that arc, for me at least. But it feels like it just flew by talking about all of this. Essentially it kind of mimics the episode, because the episode itself is one of the most fun episodes of the entire series for me. I had so much fun, as you could tell. I really thoroughly enjoyed that. And if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access or timer-based full length or full opacity, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel. The links are in the description and the pinned comment, also links to social media, things like Twitter and Instagram. But again, remember folks, all you truly have to do is to just drop a like or drop a comment. That actually really does help out the channel in getting the stuff out there, getting it noticed, the algorithm and all of that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, especially for some of these longer ones, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 39, almost in the 40s, folks. How about that? Until then, take it easy.